Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I'm sharing our grade 1 homeschool Charlotte Mason picks and talking about how we are using two wonderful resources that are available out there, Ambleside Online and the Alveary, to blend them together and create a rich and flexible and fun curriculum for our first year of homeschooling. I have a lot of wonderful living books to share with you today, so I can't wait to dive in. Hi everyone, I'm Neves and I'm a mother to 3 children. I have a new 3-month-old baby. I have a 3.5-year-old and a 6-year-old. And here on our channel, we talk about our Charlotte Mason home education journey. We have conversations about faith, and we have some honest chats about motherhood as we strive towards biblical motherhood. And so if that's something you're interested in, please stick around. I cannot believe it's already that time in our home education journey when we're going from the preschool, easy, go with the flow year to a more structured, formal education. So my oldest daughter has turned 6, and so in September we're going to be starting year 1 for her. And we've had a wonderful kindergarten experience. So in Canada where I am, there's 2 years of kindergarten. There's what's called junior kindergarten and senior kindergarten. So junior kindergarten would be preschool and senior kindergarten would be the good old regular kindergarten. We've had a really beautiful time. We've learned with nature. We've spent a lot of time connecting as a family and building relationships, working on some habits, some that we still are working on mastering, and it might be a lifelong journey for us. But we have had just a wonderful go with the flow kind of time for our kindergarten education, and now we're starting year 1 and we're excited. I'm really looking forward to this. Last year was pretty rough because I was pregnant, I was really sick, and so I have much more energy. Even in my postpartum time, I have much more energy and drive, and I have been planning everything. So I figured I might as well sit down and make a video, and I should stop rambling because I have a limited amount of time. My family's out. I send them out to the park with my husband, and let's get started. All right, so now we're basically building up on our kindergarten gentle ways, but with the curriculum piece. So in terms of curriculum this year, I was thinking long and hard. I've spent a lot of months actively researching. So a Charlotte Mason education is all about educating the whole child, right? It's about providing short lessons, lots of beautiful living books, lots of time in nature, knowing the world of God, as well as the Word of God, and then providing the child through all of that with true good and beautiful ideas. And I think you'll find as we go through these books that my curriculum choices do accomplish that. So for year 1, a Charlotte Mason education looks like a lot of gentle reading, beautiful living books, and learning through beautiful books rather than through textbooks. It looks like learning the art of narration and retelling stories through the child's lens. It looks like learning how to write through copy work and letter formation, lots of nature exploration and learning through nature, learning the Word of God, knowing the Bible, and just still for me the most important thing is keeping us connected and unified as a family. So when I was picking our curriculum this year, I had to be realistic about what our situation is as a family, and I knew we would have a brand new baby. I knew that I would be starting our first year of formal education with my hands very full. So it's not like I have the time to personalize the perfect curriculum that I would have in my mind, or to do all of this research, or to spend a lot of time planning the lessons. And I also knew I wanted a rich curriculum that is true to the Charlotte Mason philosophy. And I also knew I wanted a curriculum that's fairly easy for me as a teacher to use, and that's also easy for me to keep my students engaged. And I wanted something that will challenge us and that will open up our heart and our soul horizons. And so that's how I came to deciding on Ambleside Online and the Alveary. First off, I really appreciate the Alveary because it really lays out everything for you. The lesson plans are already done. So what I've done is, let me get that for you. Okay, so I got my Alveary lesson plans here. What I've done is I've printed all of that. So what I've done is I've printed all of that out and I've binded it. So I have all of our lessons here. I have Bible, poetry, recitation, music, picture study, geography, and I also printed out the science, though we will not be using the science curriculum. And then we also have a binder for language studies. So we have our copy work and our reading. And I also have a separate binder for lower French because it's quite a curriculum. And I've spent a lot of time familiarizing myself with the Alveary website. At first, honestly, it was pretty daunting. There's so much content there. There's education content for the mother teacher. There is just walking you through the Charlotte Mason principles and philosophy and making sure you really understand how do we approach narration, or how do we approach how to teach a foreign language, or things like that. And then there's all the curriculum, all the resources, all the book lists. There's a forum on there where people are constantly interacting. And it's just like a very full, rich website, which can be a little daunting. And I joined the website, I got my subscription to the Alveary right when it launched, which I believe was February 1st. And so I've spent all these months figuring it out. But now, after I printed out all my lessons, I just feel like it's so much clearer to me. And it's really not that complicated. You go ahead, you select the subjects that you will be teaching, and you print them out, and then the lessons are planned out for you. It even gives you certain prompts as the teacher in terms of how points of discussion for example, the next lesson, or how to introduce the lesson. And so it's really a nice to have for somebody like me who's just starting the formal education, but also for somebody like me who has no time to do that kind of prep work. So my prep work, I'm hoping, will be pretty minimal, and I am spending a lot of time right now planning my entire year, including the Ambleside online components, so that I can sit down at the beginning, or I guess at the end of a week for the next week, and prepare everything I need, all of our resources, all of our books, all of our readings, and have that ready to go. In Ambleside Online, on the other hand, all the book selections are available on the website. You see it for what it is. It's a very beautifully crafted, rich resource, and that really attracted me to Ambleside Online. And now that I've really planned out our year and purchased all of our books, I just feel really at peace with deciding to use both curriculums, and yeah, I'm really excited about it. All right, so now let's finally dive in the books. Okay, so for the Bible, this is our book. It's Hurlbut's Story of the Bible, and I've marked what we're going to be studying each term. So each week we're going to be alternating between the Old Testament and the New Testament. That's something that I think can be maybe tricky for children to conceptualize. So I think we're going to be working on a timeline for them to understand. I keep saying for them. It's really for my oldest daughter, but I feel like my middle child will be part of this because she loved, during kindergarten, she loved to be part of the morning basket and sit around with us and just be learning with us. So I have been pre-reading this book, and it's written in a very engaging tone, and for children to be able to understand the story of the Bible and the scriptures. We have been reading directly from the Bible, and we have a lot of Bible books, but I'm really looking forward to walking through the entirety of the Bible with this. So yeah, so this is what we're going to be using, and on top of that, we're also going to be reading 2 books, which I don't have in front of me because I've decided that I'm going to purchase those on Kindle. I think they're like $2 each on Kindle. So the 2 novels are Traitor in the Tower and Chimney Sweep's Ransom, and it's stories. It's really novels. They're fictional, but they're based on real historical characters. Like Traitor in the Tower is based on John Bunyan, who is the author of Pilgrim's Progress. So we're going to be reading through that. Okay, language arts, we're going to be using the Alveary reading curriculum, which is very nicely done. We are going to be using the primer, which they use as part of their reading curriculum, and it's folk stories that are very easy for children to read. Now, full disclosure, my daughter learned to read when she was 4 years old. So we'll see how that goes. I really like the phonics work they have in there. I feel like it's very thorough, and I feel like even though she learned to read at 4, she's still struggling with some of the more complex words. So I don't know if we're gonna stick with grade 1 curriculum or if I might just skip her to grade 2. I'll just wait to see how that goes. And then for copy work, we're again being guided by the Alveary, but we're going to be using the Getty DeBay Italics Handwriting Series Book B. And so it looks like this. The main thing is we are going to be practicing one letter at a time before we move on to writing actual words. Okay, math. For this one, I went kind of rogue and I've chosen my own curriculum. I've surveyed a lot of people on this, and they all recommended Math Mammoth. So I've heard great things about it. I've heard that it helps the child understand the why as opposed to just how to do math. And I think that's really important for them to actually have a love and appreciation of math and to do the work rather than just adding numbers without a clear concept of why we're doing this. All right, nature study and natural history, I have that under 1.
Well, I'm pausing this because I realized upon editing that I completely forgot to talk about what our nature study will be. And the main thing we're going to do is I have been running a co-op for the past 2 years, so we're going into our 3rd year. And our co-op is a nature-based co-op. It's very about seasonal learning. The co-op itself is a big chunk of one of our mornings. So it's about 2 to 3 hours of our time, one of the mornings. And how it works is I create an annual schedule based on some of the interests that the members of the co-op have voiced out to me, some of my and my family's interests, of course, because I'm the one running it. So it would be really silly if I didn't take myself under consideration. And we learn seasonally, and so each week one of us, so a different mother, takes on the role of leading the co-op. And so I really like that we are doing a nature study, but it also takes into account the different ways of learning. And this year I've done a lot of research to incorporate legends and tales as part of the recommendations for each subject that we're going to be studying. And so that will be our main nature study. So while the Alveary actually has a really wonderful science curriculum, we're not going to be using it, but we will be using some of these Ambleside online books just to supplement, and they're natural history books. And something else I haven't mentioned as part of this video that we're going to be incorporating as part of our nature study is, of course, nature journaling. And that's something that we've done as part of our kindergarten years. We haven't been that diligent, but every time we've done it, my daughter really enjoyed it. And this year, I really want us to be able to record, for example, the first time we notice a red leaf, or the last robin we see, or in the spring, the first goose or the first flock of geese that we see in the sky, and what date that was and where it was, and just being more mindful and observant about nature and more in tune with it.
We are going to be reading the Burgess Bird book for children. We're going to be reading 1 chapter per every week or couple of weeks as Ambleside Online recommends. We're also going to be reading Paddle to Sea, which is a novel which I don't have here because I found it for free on Spotify with my Spotify subscription. So that's a tip for you. You don't need all these physical books. A lot of them I bought physical because I know we're going to be going through them throughout the years. I also have 2 other students that are going to be following. But there's a lot of books that I feel like we're going to read once, or we're going to read it once and then read it again in a few years, and that is one. And if I can get it for free or for cheap, either at the library or on a Kindle or on Spotify or as an audiobook, then great. And the benefit of an audiobook as well is I have so many books here that I'm going to be reading a lot, and they're going to get sick of my voice, of hearing me, and I'm going to get tired of reading, let's be honest. So if I can have an audio version where we all sit back and relax and I can get some peace and quiet from myself, then great. All right, so for history, we're going to be reading through the 50 famous stories retold. My husband created this version for my children, and we are going to be reading an island story. I really like starting with British history before we dive into learning about the colonies. I feel like it sets the tone for how we came to Canada or America, and that we didn't just appear out of nowhere. And for children, I feel like it's a little bit like putting pieces of a puzzle together to help them see the big picture. For the Alveary, they're focusing on Indigenous history, which is very beautiful. And we will be integrating a lot of those books because a lot of them are actually shorter children's illustrated books. And I always really liked Ambleside's online rich history curriculum. Another book I don't have here, which is really a history of church, is Trial and Triumph. And I hesitated whether we would be using that or not, but I did order it on Amazon, and so it's coming. But yeah, we will be using Trial and Triumph as well. The reason I hesitated is simply because we are going to be learning about church history through the two novels we're going to be reading throughout the Alveary, so Traitor in the Tower and Chimney Sweep's Ransom.
I realized I forgot to show you a really beautiful book that we actually already started reading, and it's called A Pioneer Story, and it's about the story of a family in Canada during pioneer times. I think it's 1840, 1850. I don't have the book in front of me, but I'm going to be going through the book as I speak right now. And it's just such a sweet way to talk about what life was like during that time. So it gives you a little snippet of a story, like quarrels between siblings, and they're fetching maple syrup, and each one of them actually has a role, and they're working together. And there's even parts that keep you on your toes, like they're fetching buckets of maple sap, and suddenly there's a lynx in front of them. It's getting dark. What are they going to do? It just provides so much perspective about what people used to do to survive, to live, to get fed, to clothe themselves. And my daughters have really been enjoying reading this. There's a lot of beautiful images. And then we also have a lot of pioneer attractions near us. And one of them we actually visit at the beginning of each homeschool year with the rest of the homeschooling community. So this will be really interesting to read this for us ahead of time and then visit the pioneer attraction. It will feel almost like stepping back in time.
Okay, so geography, we're going to be using the Ambleside online curriculum. It's a really beautiful curriculum. It's 2 lessons a week, and I really like that it actually is so hands-on as part of the second lesson oftentimes. And it's going to be walking us through the elementary geography by Charlotte Mason, and what makes day and night, and me on a map. And then there's also French we're going to be learning this year. We live actually in a bilingual city, so my children, they're not strangers to French. It's everywhere around them. And actually, I grew up in French, so everything I've done, all my schooling, my university, etc., was in French. It wasn't my first language, it's my second language, because when I came to Canada, we came to a French part of Canada. And then I learned English later in life, and English sort of became my dominant language because my husband is Anglophone, as we call them here in this part of Canada, and just everyone around me is English speaking, so it's just become a dominant language. And so I've been pretty lazy about teaching the language to my children, but I'm very well equipped to teach it. I do appreciate having the Alveary's lower French curriculum to go along with my mastery of French, because it actually helps guide me in terms of how to teach it. So there's a lot of learning through books, and there's a book that we're going to be using, which I believe is called A Walk Through Paris. I ordered it on Amazon, and it's only getting here right before we start school. And also through games, and it's just a really nice way for children to get immersed in a language and to explore it. And then we're also going to be learning it as part of being part of the larger community as well. All right, so that's a peek into our year one Charlotte Mason curriculum picks. I'm really excited to see how it unfolds. If you're planning your homeschool year, I'd love to hear from you and see what resources and books you're excited to be using in the coming year. Stay tuned for my next video, which is going to be about our morning basket and what's in our morning basket. Thank you everyone, and I'll see you next time.